under his own power.
And Sullivan calling out the play. Kelly will line up behind him. Now Sullivan looking to Kelly. They get it to him. Sullivan will control again. Sullivan looking for Hoover. Now they go back to Kelly. Knocked down. A nice defensive play to reach out and knock it down by Evan Wood. Now Wood gets the disc back. So Ottawa failing to capitalize on that turnover. And now they go to Lugsdin. It goes curving into the end zone and just out of the outstretched hands of the Furious George player. And so Ottawa will take over, trailing 9-5 still.
That really was a great defensive play by Evan.
Nice D, Evan!
Poached off his player, what we call poaching. He stayed in the lane while his player cut away to take away that throw. Ottawa player didn't expect it, and hence he had the D. Right now, Saul is calling his players. He's calling his zone, his man offense, and which player he wants to cut.
So Sullivan working out of the corner of the end zone, goes back to the back corner. Hoover is open. They get him the disc. And now Hoover up the side of the field to Barnaby. Barnaby comes to Kelly in the middle of the field. As Ottawa Wax working through their offense. Intercepted. Once again, a good defensive play by Evan Wood. Now Wood, as they work towards the end zone, Sullivan covering him. Now Wood will go up, and Furious George scores, making it 10-5.
What Furious did there is a little stylish play called a push pass. You just push it, roll it off the finger into the end zone. It's actually a great play on the forehand side because it's a very slow spinning, slow flying disc that your player can catch. Gonna see here, he's gonna catch it, just a nice little push pop right into the end zone.
Quick fake, there it is.
Oh, what a beautiful play. Again, it's something out west that they use a lot more than we use out east. The push pass is a lot bigger there.
So Duncan McDonald was the recipient of that pass, and it's now 10-5. And Ottawa Wax, as we now have reached halftime here, as the water jug is now in the middle of the Furious George huddle. And we'll be right back with second half action right here from the National Ultimate Championships in Ottawa.
Cellular communication for this production is provided by Cantel AT&T. Cantel AT&T, a proud sponsor of community television.
So here is Sullivan with the pull. Handled by Crushank. They go back to the middle of the field. Now give it back to Crushank. He swings it over to the far side to Toby Marcoux. Marcoux up the sideline to Derek John. John will try a long pass, throwing to space for number 7, Mike Grant. And now Grant attempts to do the same thing, but nobody home for Furious George.
A little miscommunication on that last pass.
That is not characteristic of these guys at all.
So now Sullivan will take over for Ottawa Wax. They check the disc, and now Sullivan working with it. Sullivan goes to number 33, Gattinger. Gattinger back to Jamie Kelly. Kelly has Sullivan breaking for the disc.
Foul was called on the offensive player. It's necessary for the defense to remain at least one disc's width from the offensive player. In this case, I think the offensive player may have stepped into this defender.
So Sullivan now to Gattinger. Gattinger, over the top it goes. Pass intended to Walter, and he couldn't corral the pass. And now here is number 7, Mike Grant. Grant stepping out of bounds to make that pass. He goes to Duncan McDonald. McDonald in the end zone for Mark Sariolia.
Again, this is where you see why Wax doesn't use the scuba as much as Vancouver does. It's a really tough catch to make, and when you're not used to it being thrown, you're not expecting it, you'll often see the disc go down.
The disc is upside down and it's spinning in the other direction.
And here we take a look at the replay here.
Furious. And just 2 more announcements. Cadet Murphy,
Disc
please
is
come to the
thrown
microphone area at the main tent.
and just caught
the
on the
second
corner.
one is, can we have the area in front of the scoreboards cleared away?
Cutting
We
right
cannot
into the
see it
corner,
from
and you knew
the
exactly where the line
microphone
was.
area of the main
Had to keep
tent.
his feet in bounds.
Could you
and
clear
did so.
the area in front of the scoreboards, please? Thank you.
And so it's now 11-5 for Furious George, as Al Nichols prepares his team.
Often what you'll see here is when they're talking and not facing the other team, they're setting up a defense. They're setting up something other than just a man on defense. Often when they're facing the other team, they're picking who they want to mark, and that's when you'll see it's going to be a man defense. Right now, Furious is all talking, and some are not even facing the Wax players, so this is why I'm saying you'll probably see a zone defense here.
And I suppose when they choose the player that they're going to mark, they mark players who have similar abilities, meaning that a guy like Jamie Hoover will also be marked by a tall jumper kind of player.
With Jamie Hoover and Trevor here, you're going to see them get marked by the 2 tallest or best players on the Vancouver team because they're such a threat on offense.
What can also happen is the creation of a mismatch, where you'll get a very good player who's covered by someone who is either not as fast or a little bit shorter.
And here is Knowles in the end zone. They can't come up with it. And so Furious George will turn it back.
What Furious George is doing right now is they're letting their best handler walk back, give themselves time to breathe, and he's going to pick it up and call a play.
So Al Nichols taking his time, walking back to the disc, and he will pick it up and walk it back to the end zone. As we take a look at a replay of the last play and the valiant effort by Peter Knowles.
He's up for the disc, but doesn't come down with it.
Concise analysis by Mano. And here is Furious George with it, tether guarding Nichols. And Furious George has to work hard to complete this opening pass. And now a long one. Both their players are down the end of the field. Hoover with a nice attempt to break it up, but Lugsdin comes down with it, and it's now 12-5.
What Hoover did there was he tried to come up short to take away that hammer to the middle, and then he just didn't have the speed to get back and help out on defense with a long throw.
There were 2 Furious George players in the end zone for that single defender.
It's something you should never see in the end zone.
And we like that replay of the last Knowles attempt so much. We'll show it to you twice. Mano, would you like to comment on that once again?
He goes up for the disc, but doesn't come down with it.
I liked the first time better myself.
Nice try, Hoover.
And so now Furious George with a 12-5 lead, up by 7.
They've certainly taken a very convincing lead in this game.
Do you ever see teams come back trailing by 7 in a game to 19 in a tournament of this caliber?
Not of this caliber, especially in the open division. Usually when a lead this big has been taken, that's it. They're shutting the other team down well. They're obviously doing something right, or the other team is either too tired or just doesn't have the players to keep up with, i.e. Furious.
As we said earlier, even if they start trading points, there's still just not enough time to catch up.
12-5 the score. We're set to start things off here again. Nichols down the field. It'll be handled by Ayub. Sullivan controls now for Ottawa Wax down the sideline. Nice catch made. Now Hoover will head to the end zone, and that pass got away from everybody on the Ottawa Wax squad. Now it comes back to Kai Fu. Fu goes up to number 9, Lugsdin. Lugsdin to Mitch Scott. Scott going to the corner for Greg LeBird, and he couldn't come down with it. And so they'll turn things over, and Ottawa will control.
Again, there on that play, you can see that Jamie just can't make the bid on the disc all the time on defense. He's just getting worn out. Vancouver has so many good players that Wax is having trouble keeping up. Here on this replay, you're going to see a beautiful attempt on that disc. What a great lay.
And when we say what a great lay, of course we mean that he's jumping for the disc, trying to make a catch.
Full body extension in the air.
And so Furious George, as Jamie Hoover goes down in a heap, he appears to be injured.
This is a big blow for the Wax offense.
So Hoover gets tangled up with Mitch Scott, and they both go down. Hoover receiving the worst of that collision. Now Hoover looking for Ayub. Ayub has to go up and sky for it. So things not coming easily for Ottawa Wax here as Sullivan sets up. Sullivan looking for an open man. Hoover will have to run for it. Now it goes back to Ayub. The middle of the field, Ayub controls. His defender falls down. They go to Sullivan. Sullivan looking for an option. He'll go down the field. It's easily intercepted by Mitch Scott. He turns it back up to Evan Wood. Evan Wood to Lugsdin. Lugsdin guarded by Sullivan. He goes to LeBird. Now here is Kai Fu. Fu looking for an option. Mitch Scott being guarded by Hoover. Now it's intercepted by Ottawa Wax. Number 13, Tether, came up with that ball, that disc. Now Tether down the right sideline. Tether being watched by Wood. And it's knocked down. And a foul called on Furious George.
Jamie Hoover here is taking an injury, probably due to that last one, that last bid he just made.
At the same time, it gives them a chance to tie their shoelaces.
Furious now has a chance to sub anybody they want to, just to keep it fair, but they've elected not to.
And here is Tether. His pass a little bit too far for its intended receiver. And now here's Lugsdin with it. Lugsdin over to Kai Fu. They go back to the left sideline to Wood. All the way down for Mitch Scott. Scott in the end zone, makes the catch, and some contact there. And that makes the score 13-5 for Furious George.